Yo, what's good guys, welcome back to another fire top 10 list here on Gaming Rebooted. Today we are looking at the 10 best superhero games. There are rules of course to this list, so listen carefully because I cannot be arsed repeating them. Also they're on screen, so just make sure you get your eyes peeled. Rule number 1, no more than one game per series. Just to be fair, I'm only including one game from a series on this list, so certain games don't take over the list, aka the ARKHAM series. Rule number 2, no more than one game based on a specific superhero. Kinda similar to rule 1, but just to clarify even more, this means we won't see a certain superhero take over the list. Batman, Superman, Spiderman, and that includes even if their games are not connected within the same series. Rule number 3, the games on the list do not need to be based on comic book heroes for them to appear on this list. They don't have to be Marvel or DC, they just have to feel like a superhero game. And finally, rule number 4, LEGO games sadly won't appear on the list either, but that's just because I plan on making a whole separate list. I know we all hate rules, but without these rules, this list will just be full of LEGO games, the Batman Arkham series, and of course Spider-Man. So with the rules in place, let's see how the list is looking. First up, hitting the number 10 spot, we have DC Universe Online, an action RPG MMO set in the DC Universe, where players can create their own hero or villain to fight with, and explore the vast open worlds of the DC Universe. The biggest selling point for DC Universe Online is the character customization. The sheer freedom you have to create your own unique hero or villain is mind-blowing. There are so many combinations of powers, weapons, and styles of movement. Not to mention the never-ending array of cosmetic customizations that are available for every player and makes every player feel unique. And best of all, it's 100% a free game that seems to constantly update. Of course, there's plenty of DLC and a lot of stuff stuck behind paywalls, like certain superpowers and weapons, but that really doesn't affect the gameplay. If you don't want to spend a penny on the game, it's fine. Unlike most games, it doesn't force the paid options down your throat, or make you feel like you're playing a better version of the game. For years I have played this game completely free and loved every single minute of it. Next up is X-Men Origins Wolverine. Who would have thought that a movie so shit we don't even mention its name and try our best to forget it exists would produce such a great game. Raven Software did such a great job of injecting this game with its classic over-the-top violence, and it fits Wolverine so well. Insomniac better sit up and take some notes, because this is exactly how you want a Wolverine game to be. Over the top violence, just tearing enemies apart like they are absolutely nothing. A well designed leveling up system that is easy to understand. The awesome rage mode that makes you feel like an unstoppable killing machine. This is by far the best Wolverine experience so far, and for a game that's 13 years old, the graphics still stand up today, kind of. Here's hoping the aforementioned Insomniac Wolverine game is just as fun. If not, oh well, we always have X-Men Origins Wolverine to fall back on. From one stunningly brutal game to another at number 8, we have The Punisher, and oh my god, is this game violent. Probably the most brutal comic book game ever made. Here's a review I saw online. The violence here is extremely graphic, detailed and disturbing, with extremely gruesome scenes of torture, and features plenty of explicit blood and gore. Now come on, tell me that doesn't sound like a review for a horror movie and not a video game. I think the review actually was supposed to be negative, but how much does that make you just want to play the game even more? Or am I just a psychopath? I might have to look into that. Anyways, it's so brutal, some versions of the game actually got censored around the world. A lot of violence got cut out, mostly by the camera moving away during the infamous interrogation kills, just so you don't see what's happening, and outright being banned altogether in Australia. But censoring it kind of defeats the purpose of this game. It's supposed to be violent. This is the Punisher after all. He's there to punish people, not to cuddle them and ask them nicely to be a good little boys or girls. But hey, look on the bright side, at least there's a version of the game everybody will enjoy. Oh, and other than the kills being brutal, the gameplay overall is really good actually. The story is pretty decent, and trust me, you'll never feel as much of a badass in your life than you will when you're playing the Punisher. At the number 7 spot, we have the Injustice series, a tournament fighter style game in the same aspect as Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, but with the story being based on a DC comic book series of the same name. Currently there are 2 games in the Injustice series, Injustice Gods Among Us and Injustice 2. I guess they gave up on the subtitle for the second game and just stuck with Injustice 2. What Injustice does really well is it allows us to fight with roughly 58 DC Comics heroes and villains spread across both games, and each one of them have their own unique fighting styles and customization options. I'm personally not a fan of tournament fighters myself, but I did really enjoy Injustice, and for those who don't know the story behind the Gaming Rebooted channel, me and my co-host Ross actually met for the first time through the Injustice series, so just for that alone it deserves a spot on this list I guess. As far as the gameplay goes, Injustice is an incredibly fun game that you can play solo or against other people, and it also seems to do something other tournament fighters doesn't, and that's get you invested in the story. But I guess that is also thanks to the comic book origins. I mean, if you're a fan of games like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, and you also just happen to enjoy DC Universe, then this game is most definitely for you. Right, you have 3 seconds to guess what's at number 6. 3, 2, 1. The correct answer is Marvel's Ultimate Alliance. Like the video if you guessed correctly, and if you guessed wrong, unlucky, but also comment what you thought it was going to be. Anyways, first released in 2006, Marvel's Ultimate Alliance is an action RPG that lets you take control of 24 upgradable characters from the Marvel Universe, as you fight your way through the story along with lots of interesting and optional side quests. Admittedly, the game does feel pretty aged now, and is super rare to find. And also let's not forget that the third entry in the series, Marvel's Ultimate Alliance 3, The Black Order, didn't quite live up to expectations, hence why the game is only number 6 on this list. But for me, in my personal opinion, the first 2 games are more than capable of being top 3 games by themselves. If by any chance you have played the X-Men Legends series and enjoyed those, then you'll love Marvel's Ultimate Alliance, as they are both very similar games. I did originally include X-Men Legends on this list, but because it feels so similar to Ultimate Alliance, I decided it can have its own little honorary mention here. Halfway mark now, and with my favourite comic book character of all time. Coming in at number 5. People who know me know I love Deadpool so much, I have him tattooed on my arm. So it was a really hard choice for me not to be biased and put Deadpool at the number 1 spot, but that wouldn't be honest or fair, so number 5 it is. Sadly though, this is another game that's tough to get your hands on, because back in 2014 it was delisted and removed from all digital storefronts, and it took me months to find a physical copy of the game, which is such a shame because it's such a fun game, the writing is hilarious, and the combat is really fun. It truly makes you feel like you're controlling Deadpool, and everything from the fourth wall breaks to the storylines feel like it's all ripped straight out of a comic book. And to make things even better, Deadpool himself is voiced by none other than the legendary Nolan North, who is the Mark Hamill to Deadpool's Joker. If you get the chance to play Deadpool, I highly recommend it and would love to know what you think, so tell me down in the comments if you have played the game before. Taking the number 4 spot and just missing out on the top 3 is Infamous, the first game on this list that isn't from Marvel or DC. Back in 2009, Sucker Punch Productions gave us one of the best open world superhero games to date, and everything in it feels completely original, from the fighting mechanics to the movement, as well as a pretty decent storyline. So it's no wonder Infamous spawned 4 fantastic sequels, each improving on the last, and has become a fan favourite among gamers who have been patiently waiting for a new installment since 2014. Infamous gives us the now classic choice of playing as either a hero or a villain, with our actions in-game affecting the world around us, so it has plenty of reasons to play multiple playthroughs of it without it ever getting boring. I always do my first playthrough being as good as you can be, and for my second playthrough, I go pure evil, killing everything in sight. Not only is being a villain super fun in the game, but you can't disagree, the red and black lightning, I mean just look at how cool that looked. I feel like such a badass with it. It's about time we get a new installment of the Infamous franchise. I would love to see what they can do on the current generation, so please Sucker Punch, just give us all what we want. Taking the number 3 spot, we have South Park The Fractured But Whole. Who would have thought South Park of all things would be a better superhero game than Marvel's Avengers? That just baffles me. So well done Ubisoft, you certainly smashed it out of the park with this one. The sequel to South Park, The Stick of Truth, improves upon the gameplay of the first game and switches from a more fantasy style to superheroes, putting us in the shoes of the new kid, allowing us to create our own superhero, our own costume, and pick from one of 12 superhero classes, whilst allowing us to upgrade our powers along the way, being combined with South Park's hilarious writing and Ubisoft's great game designs. This is a combination I never knew I needed until we got it. Now I'm just hoping we get more of this type of game in the future. Just missing out on the number 1 spot is the Batman Arkham Knight series. At number 2, I know on most people's list it would easily be the number 1 spot, and this has to have been one of the toughest decisions I've ever made. So let's consider this more of a joint number 1 and move on. With the upcoming release of Arkham Knights, there's no better time than now to talk about its predecessors, the Batman Arkham games, a game series that perfected and popularised the free flow combat style that has become a staple of gaming today, and without a doubt has become one of the best fighting mechanics we have ever had. A lot of games use the free flow combat, but none have done it quite as good as the Arkham Knight series has. That combined with the open world of Gotham City, using Batman's detective skills to solve crimes, and the Riddler's puzzles keeping us occupied, there's so much fun to be had in the Arkham games, and that's not forgetting its incredible storyline that keeps us on the edge of our seats for the whole journey. Truly a masterpiece of gaming that changed gaming for the better. So, if the Arkham series sits at number 2, what sits at the number 1 spot, I hear you asking? Well, none other than Spider-Man for the PS4, just edging its way past the Arkham games due to its simply amazing web swinging. I cannot count the amount of hours I have spent doing nothing but swinging around Manhattan, having the absolute time of my life. And when you're getting tired of all the swinging, which let's be honest is almost never, you can just go and kick some bad guys' asses using the Arkham series free flowing combat style, mixed in with Spidey's varied web attacks and classic whips. Spider-Man for the PS4 never gets boring. When it came to deciding number 1 and number 2 spots, the thing that swayed it for us to put Spider-Man at number 1 was the fact that when it came out, it was everything we had hoped it could be and more. The game felt perfect, it was so much fun, and we had literally no complaints at all about the game, which is super rare these days to be able to say that about a game on the day it releases. It's fair to say that Spider-Man lived up to the hype it had gathered and exceeded all expectations. Without any doubt, Spider-Man is one of the best games in recent years, not just superhero or Marvel games, but one of the best games full stop. And with Insomniac Games returning for the sequel, as well as developing the new Wolverine game, there's so much to look forward to over the next few years. And that's the end of today's list. It's important to remember these are just my opinions, and not meant to be taken as reviews or gospel. So just play the game for yourself and decide for yourself what your top 10 superhero games are. Also, don't forget to let me know in the comments what your top 10 list would be. I would love to read people's favourites. So until next time, I've been Jen from Game Rebooted, and thank you so much for watching. Yo, what's good guys, welcome back to another fire